Let's get into the advisory now and the hidden psychology of asset ownership with Kitty Parker from Kitty and Miles. Kitty, this is a really fascinating topic. Great to see you.
Thank you.
But I'm just wondering how some of these deep-seated fears that we hold, maybe from childhood, maybe from a traumatic event, affect our relationship with property.
Great question, and I think it affects property investors more than they want to admit. Property investment is traditionally based on obviously return of investment and really looking at the numbers only. I have found in my experience, and I've worked with literally hundreds of property investors, and you'd be very surprised how pretty much 100% of investors will come in with some form of subconscious motivation at play that is driving them more so than just the numbers.
And, you know, I mean, we've all got life things that we deal with, but what do you see? I mean, maybe if you can give us some kind of examples of something that was deep rooted in somebody's childhood and pops up when they're, you know, thinking about buying a property.
Yes, of course. Usually what I'll see is that somebody's childhood, so whether it be their unconscious sense of scarcity, or whether it comes to they have a particular identity that they want to fulfill, ironically, with this property purchase, these will often spill over as preferences. So while initially it may seem that yes, I'm very rational and everything's based on the numbers, I'll inadvertently find that more often than not, there'll be other drivers there for me to manage as a buyer's agent, aside from just the nuts and bolts numbers.
I mean, part of the role of a buyer's agent as well, right, is to help take that emotion out, and you advocate, particularly at an auction when things can get very emotional. So are you sort of, you know, becoming a therapist as well in this role?
I feel I'm more of a property strategist than a buyer's agent.
Okay.
My role obviously is presenting numbers, presenting data, but it's also often highlighting with clients we'll say the conversations they need to have but don't want to have. So I'll gently broach with them, hey, I'm noticing this, or I sense this or that. How does that feel for you? Or am I hitting the mark when I suggest that? And often folks will say, goodness, you're right. I wasn't thinking about that. And what I find is it really builds trust with the client because you're able to sense their authentic self behind everything. Once we bring it out in a conversation, I'll usually find it's packed into the purchase. So once it's highlighted and really brought out in the open, we can clearly move forward. Adding that in is one component.
Now, I think since we last spoke, the relaxation of the first home buyer scheme has kicked in. Have you seen, is your phone going off hot? Like, is there a lot more demand?
There is a lot more demand. I can also say that first home buyers, conversely, would think that they'd be very happy with this new government incentive. I'm seeing that because supply levels of property are not matching buyer demand and more buyers have come into the arena, they're feeling more demoralized. They're feeling the competition. They're really feeling the pinch. So I don't think the government incentive has really done its job in the way that policy assumed it would.
And what do you think real estate investing is going to look like in, say, 5 years' time?
I think, honestly, it's going to be very different than it is today and very, very different to the last few years. I foresee that there will be alternative purchasing models, so whether it be rent to build, whether it be co-purchasing arrangements, there will be fractional purchasing or purchasing properties that have multiple uses, so cover the commercial and residential sector or cover the retail and commercial. I think buying will be very different. I also feel the days of the old adage for a property investor of the set and forget property, I think that's long gone.
Yeah.
I think it will be more buy and add value rather than buy and set and forget, I think will be more nuanced in the precision of purchases, because the entry purchase price has gone up so substantially that there'll need to be other ways of building growth in property investment rather than just buy into property, sit there, get great capital growth and a great rental yield.
And I wonder as well, given that I was just speaking to somebody who was talking about financial planning after a divorce, given, you know, the traditional family unit is not the same as it was 20, 30, 40 years ago, and how high prices are, is it just going to be, you know, you buy a house with a bunch of friends?
I think you're correct. I am definitely seeing on the street that the single income purchaser is really no longer, it's such a small percentage of the buyer cohort. Even the first home buyer cohort, I'm seeing more and more coming in as couples or coming in as mates, and they're going to share the property. The days of that one income purchase, it's very minuscule now, and I think you need to be in a very good financial position to be able to operate solo with regard to property purchasing.